In today's story, we follow the journey of a great hero who, after being reincarnated, discovers that all records about him have disappeared, as if he had never existed. Searching for clues as to what had happened to his records, he discovers that the great evil he defeated by sacrificing himself was somehow alive. On a sunny day at the Imperial School of Milan, we see a professor calling his students' attention, as today they would learn about the Age of Heroes. The educator enthusiastically talks about 5,000 years ago when the record of heroes began to be used. He tells them that at that time the world was going through many changes. Placing his hand on his chest, the young professor says that the Imperial School had been chosen as the location for this year's exam. While saying that he was sure that most of the students would pass, the educator is interrupted by the sound of someone sleeping. Glaring at the student in the back of the room, the advisor says that they should pay more attention in class. The professor calls the attention of Leo, the sleeping student, saying that since he seemed to know everything in class, he would ask him a question. He then asks Leo what needed to be done 5,000 years ago to be considered a hero. Leo replies that it was easy. He says that if someone did something important, people would naturally support him. Scratching his head, the teacher asks if anyone volunteers to answer. A red-haired person then raises his hand, saying that the gods don't support him so easily. The boy then says that to become a hero, he needs to go through a ritual, a great example among them being the blood ritual. Finally satisfied with the answer, the teacher congratulates him, saying that it was what was expected of the great genius of the Traden family, Gulliver Traden. Leo thinks that it was easy to communicate with the gods in the past. Because the heroes fought the great evil Erebus, the gods gifted them with miracles, the famous records of the heroes. Closing the book, he thinks that he was the only one who didn't have a record. Meanwhile, on the other side of the room, the students crowded in droves to see the Zerdinger family. They are then called to the auditorium, as the Zerdinger family is visiting the school. Gulliver, the boy from before, asks Leo what he thinks about doing something important for the family. Zerdinger? Maybe then they would support him. Leo tells him dryly that he's going home, since unlike him, he didn't care about such things. Embarrassed, the boy says he didn't care about that either. He was just going to take a look at Celia Zerdinger in case she could be his rival. Back home, our protagonist thinks that maybe because he had trained since he was little, he felt that this body was better than his old one. Suddenly, Leo notices an attack coming towards him, blocking it with difficulty. He asks what she was thinking. The woman tells him that it had been a long time since they last dueled. She then says that if he wants to enter Lumerne, he will need a lot of talent. Saying that this would be his last test, she attacks again. Crossing their swords, she asks him what he thought about making it a little more difficult. Leo then asks her if she wasn't being too hard on him, calling her mother. She then tells him to just keep blocking, advancing quickly towards Leo. The woman then realizes that she had used too much force, and thinks that if Leo didn't block, it would be the end for him. Fortunately, Leo ends up dodging the attack, after which the woman ends up falling to the ground. Winning the fight, the boy asks if everything was okay with her. The woman thinks that Leo's talent was absurd for his age. She asks the boy if he still thought about going to Lumerne Academy. Our protagonist thinks that among the records of the 4 heroes who saved the world, there should be one about him. He answers yes. Then his mother tells him that the members of the Zerdinger family who visited the school today would stay at their house for now. Leo asks her if they would really have to stay there. His mother tells him that she didn't like the idea either, but she planned to ask Zeus Zerdinger to teach him the Zerdinger family aura. Patting his head, she tells him that next year he would be strong enough to enter Lumerne Academy. In his thoughts, he wonders what she would think if he said he wanted to enter this year. After arriving at the Plav house, Celia wonders what her uncle wanted with a place like that, and thinks that it would have been better if they had stayed in a hotel. She says that they needed to focus on the academy entrance exam and not on a small family. Calling for her uncle, Zias asks her if she wasn't interested in knowing the strength level of the boy, who said he wasn't interested in the Zerdinger family. The girl responds by saying that the boy was a mere student who didn't even know how to use aura. How could someone like him have anything special? In the living room of the Plav mansion, we see Reina Plav, the Marquise of the Plav family, and Dade Plav, head of the Plav family, welcoming them. Her uncle then tells Celia to introduce herself. The girl then introduces herself as Celia Zerdinger and says that she would be under her care for the week. Getting a little closer to Celia, Reina says it was a pleasure to meet her. Noticing the familiar appearance of the Plav matriarch, Celia wonders if she was part of the family. At that very moment, her uncle tells her that the matriarch was actually her aunt. While having tea, Z says that they went to the Imperial School, but that unlike the other students, Leo said he wasn't interested and left. Laughing, the matriarch apologizes for her son having offended them, but he only wants to know about training. Zai then, When asked what kind of boy Leo was, remembering the fight from earlier, Reina tells him that he is a boy of great talent. The vice chief of the Zerdinger family asks her if she thought he had the potential to inherit the power of the Zerdinger family. She tells him that she was not saying that just because he was her son, he was perfectly qualified. Seeing how well she was speaking of Leo, he says that since she was saying that he would create great expectations. However, Z says that she would still personally test whether the boy was qualified or not. Meanwhile, in the training room, Leo was meditating. He says that he had finally managed to create a space that was capable of withstanding everything. Leo explains that the reason he hadn't learned aura yet is because when you learn aura, the body loses the ability to accumulate mana and energy in the soul. With a feeling of guilt, Leo thinks that if he had managed to control the energy and essence properly, he wouldn't have lost the fragment of destruction. So he decides that this time he would learn to control it, starting with his aura. Suddenly, the boy hears someone asking him if he is Leo Plav. Leo then looks back, noticing a girl with a turned-up nose. She says that he seemed to have a good grasp of the basics, and asks if he wouldn't like her to teach him some fencing techniques. The boy, confused by the sudden visit, asks who she is. She replies that she is Celia Zerdinger, the famous sword princess. Leo, teasing the girl, says that he appreciates her concern for him, but he doesn't need someone worse than him to teach him anything. Outraged by the boy's response, Celia asks if he really meant to say he is stronger than her. Responding to the girl, he says that in a fight to the death, she would be the strongest since he cannot use aura. The boy then says that if it were a duel between swordsmen, the result would be different. Furious with what the boy told her, the girl looks around looking for swords. She finds Leo draws swords and challenges him, saying that if he had so much confidence in his abilities, then he should duel her. The girl thinks he was crazy if he thought that just by learning aura, he would become stronger than her. Celia then proposes a bet. If she beats him, during his stay at the house, he will be her servant. Our protagonist asks what would happen if he wins, so she tells him that in that case, she will be his servant. Picking up his sword from the ground, Leo asks if they can begin, advancing quickly towards the girl, launching an attack that she easily blocks. She thinks that his speed was not bad, however, it still would not be enough to beat her. Leo tries an attack from above, which Celia manages to change the path of the sword, but with great difficulty. In turn, the boy ends up destroying the arena floor with his attack. Our protagonist then advances. Trying another attack, Celia thinks that this time she will not be able to dodge. Receiving Leo's attack, Celia activates an aura armor. The boy then asks her why she used an aura armor. Aura, if it was a duel just of fencing skills. Celia says she did it out of reflex. Leo says it didn't matter, he had already won anyway. The nervous girl asks what he was talking about. He tells her that the ability to control aura provides the same difference between heaven and earth. Taking off his magic-weighted bracelets on the ground, Leo asks her if she is ready to test. Smiling, he advances towards her, delivering a blow that breaks the girl's aura barrier. As she falls, the girl thinks how could someone so rude exist, referring to Leo as an idiot. Leaving the training room, the boy ends up meeting the matriarch who was strolling through the mansion with Zeus. She then called him, asking him to introduce himself to the guest. The boy approaches Zeus, introducing himself as Leo Plav. The vice head of the Zerdinger family tells him that his name is Zeus Zerdinger, and as he should already know, he is his uncle. Greeting the boy, Zeus says it was a pleasure to meet him. His mother asks him if he had met Celia. Sighing, the boy looks back to where the girl was, being carried away by the guards on a stretcher. Seeing the scene, Zeus asks a guard what had happened. Zeus wonders how someone who hadn't even learned aura yet had managed to defeat Celia. The man tells Leo that what he did was impressive. Leo tells him that she had doubted him. Zeus asks him what they bet, and Leo replies that the loser would be the other's servant. He says that since she lost, she would be his servant for a week. With a serious look, Z says that it is important to keep a promise, but Celia was from the Zerdinger family. Releasing a threatening aura, he tells Leo that he could not order her to do the work of a servant. Extending his hand, Z says that he expected him to revoke the bet, and with that, he would give her something different as a reward. Before he could finish what he was going to say, Leo cuts him off, saying he didn't want it. The boy says that it was a fair bet between the two of them, and that as long as she possessed the Zerdinger name, she needs to assume the Z's then asks him, even if he offered to teach him the Zerdinger family aura technique, he was sure he wouldn't accept. Leo says that Zeus really wanted to prevent his niece from being humiliated, but an aura technique was useless to him. With the same cold look as before, Zeus asks if he was really declaring that he would use one of the Zerdingers as a servant. Looking at the man mockingly, Leo says that was exactly it. Zeus asks him if he wasn't being a little too reckless, and the boy replies that he didn't mean to insult the Zerdingers. Leo tells Zeus that if his intention was to reward him for defeating Celia with an aura technique, he would gladly accept. He says that, however, the man was declaring it was a reward to make up for Celia's defeat. Leo says that in this case, he thought that if she hadn't let her guard down, she wouldn't have lost. The boy then says that even if she had fought him with everything she had, still, he would have won. Seeing this situation, his mother smiles. Smiling, Ziz thinks that Leo was an interesting boy, as he had denied his proposal just by the way he said it. Ziz orders 2 guards to approach while thinking that if Leo were a Zerdinger, he would have nothing to worry about. The man asks the guards to take Celia to the servants' room, leaving the guards surprised by the request. He then looks at Leo and says that in unofficial situations, he could call him more comfortably, such as uncle. Leo agrees, calling him uncle. Ziz watches Leo leave while talking to his sister, asking if she would like him to teach him the family aura technique. Reina is surprised by the sudden question. He says that he would try to convince his brother so that Leo could learn the technique, phoenix breathing. In Leo's room, we see Celia entering. Very embarrassed, she says that during this week she would be the maid who would serve. With a little smile, Leo says that the dress suits her very well. He says that no one imagined that her style, normally chic, would be suitable for simple maid clothes. Angrily, she tells him to stop it. Laughing, he says he didn't mean to make her angry, apologizing. He says he had a friend who really appreciated beautiful things, and says those habits must have passed on to him. Leo remembers his dwarf friend, who said that if peace returned, he would like to spend the rest of his life spreading beauty to everyone. The boy says that the dwarf's flaw was his great honesty. Remembering the time the dwarf asked his companions to be models for his art, Celia asks Leo about the book he was reading, wondering if it was some kind of training book. Showing the book, the boy says it was a book he used to read when he was younger, The Great Hero of the Beginning. Wondering why he was reading a history book, Celia remembers that she read this book when she was only 5 years old. She then frowns at the boy's suspicious attitude and goes towards the bookshelf. The girl says that he seemed to really like the hero of the beginning, and that the common researcher of great heroes didn't even compare to him. The boy replies that he was just collecting books and ended up like this. The girl asks about the number of books he had about the hero Kyle. Leo says that among all the things the heroes did, there are things that were difficult to attribute to any particular hero. So he says he believes these achievements were the hero Kyle's. Celia says he was probably just a charlatan who wanted to steal the credit for the hero's achievements. Leo asks her if she was talking about the hero Kyle. She then says that was what most people thought, however. She says that she thought the same about the hero. Our protagonist, wondering if that was how people thought of him, ends up speaking out loud. Noticing the confused girl, he tries to disguise it by asking if they were going to have coffee and start training. Wanting to know the origin of Leo's strength, she asks if she could train with him. Leo then says that his training would be difficult to keep up with, and asks if she was sure of that. Later in the training, we see Celia fallen on the floor. The boy then tells her that when she reaches her limit, her reaction speed decreases. This happens because she left her back unguarded. Celia asks if abusing the body like that would be useful for training. He says yes, and that apparently young people today were very leaning on her sword. She asks who he was calling weak. Celia tells him not to underestimate her, as she charges at him with everything she has. Leo easily blocks her attack, sending her flying away again. Frustrated, she asks him why she can't beat him. Seeing her frustration, the boy hands her a bracelet with weight magic. Trying to grab the bracelet, Celia ends up dropping it to the ground with everything. Leo tells her that it was a weight bracelet, and from tomorrow on, she would wear it while training. In the morning, we see them at a training camp. Celia was asking for a break, while her uncle watched everything from afar. Her uncle thought this was a good experience for Celia. It would be good for her pride to be wounded at least once before going to the academy. Zai then calls for Leo, who goes to him. He tells the boy that he was thinking of asking the patriarch to allow him to teach the boy the phoenix breath. Leo is a little confused until he remembers. The phoenix's breath, he was talking about the Zerdinger family's origin for aura. Our protagonist thinks that only people recognized within the family could learn. The girl intrudes on their conversation, saying that her father would not accept it easily. His uncle says that for that he had a condition for this. He needed Leo to pass the Lumern school entrance exam. Celia then says that Leo could not even use aura. An exam like the Lumern one would be too dangerous for him. With a smirk, Leo agrees with Celia, saying that he had no experience in real combat. While remembering his fights as Kyle, he thought that was true when it came to just this life. Ziz asks him what he thought of the idea. Leo asks Ziz about what his parents thought of the idea. The man tells him that they would let him do whatever he wanted. Leo nods and accepts the proposal. Leo says the break is over and starts running at full speed. A week later, on the day of the entrance exam for Lumern Academy, Many people were whispering about the presence of the Sword Princess. Celia then asks Leo if he was nervous about the exam. He replies that he wasn't nervous at all, reminding her of their bet. The boy asks her if she shouldn't improve the way she talks to him. At that moment, we see someone calling for Celia. We see that it was Gulliver. Seeing our protagonist near Celia, he asks what he is doing there. While trying to get Celia's attention by asking how she is, the redhead continues to ask why someone like Leo is there. The two stare at the boy with a puzzled expression. Nervous, the boy says it was Gulliver Tratton, and that they had seen each other the day she visited the school. She apologizes, saying that she didn't remember the boy. Saying goodbye, she takes Leo's hand and pulls him away. At that moment, we see two people with silver hair calling for Celia. Seeing who it was, Celia is confused about what they were doing there. Leo asks Celia who these two were. She tells him that they were the Llewellyn brothers, descendants of the hero of the Lordran Empire. With blood in her eyes, she says that since they were following the same path as the two, they could not let themselves be lost to the Llewellyn family. The older brother, Abud, tells Celia that it had been a while since they had seen each other. Somewhat shy, the girl says that it had indeed been a long time. Abad then asks her about who the boy beside her was. She replies that it was Leo from the Plav family, a noble family from the kingdom of Dalad. Facing Leo, Abad says that the boy was a small fish. Leaving the place, Abad says that the first place would be his, while calling his sister Chelsea to get them out of there. Celia says that they were two arrogant idiots and that she would make a point of crushing them. After she said this, an instructor said that apparently everyone had arrived. He introduces himself as Albi. Celia remembers that name. He was the famous sorcerer of Ma'an. Bored as ever, Leo asks if she knew that instructor. The girl asks him if he was serious. Celia is incredulous that he really doesn't know the teacher who is called the hero of this era. Leo ends up noticing a mana coming from the teacher's left eye. The educator says that the entrance exam would be conducted through two modes, one-on-one combat and monster subjugation. He goes on to say that each of the students would rotate between the modes. However, burning the exam paper, the teacher says that that method is outdated. The teacher then pulls out a book and activates his hero registration, called the World of Albi. The students are enveloped in a magic circle, while the teacher says he hated inefficiency. Therefore, he says he would combine the two into one. Seeing that situation, our protagonist remembers that in the class on hero registration, they learned that the true value of the registration lies in the ability to manifest the hero world. A world where each hero's experiences are shared, and by conquering their world, they gain the power of the previous hero. Our protagonist thinks this was like a training system for heroes. As they are transported to a forest, Leo wonders if this is what the hero's world was like. The professor, who is observing everything, tells the students that this place was called the Wild Forest, and that the only thing they needed to do was survive, no matter what. Our protagonist thinks that this place hadn't changed at all, while wondering where that voice came from. He says that this place used to be an elven forest that was cursed by the Witch Queen, Salatna. The students begin to wonder where they were, some even asking the instructor to take them out of there. One student says that it was just an illusion, asking them to stop being scared. Looking into the forest, our protagonist thinks he was wrong. Even though it is a created world, everything that happened there was real, and the dangers there could really kill. At that moment, Leo receives a surprise attack and ends up dodging it. It was Abad's sister who says she was happy to have the chance to eliminate someone from the Zerdinger family. Leo tells her that she was not from the Zerdinger family, but from the Plav family. The girl tells him that it doesn't matter, as he was friends with Celia. She then summons a wind scythe, and our protagonist thinks that he has never seen such magic in his past life. The boy says that in any case, the basics do not seem to have changed. The silver-haired girl says that he seemed very calm for someone who was facing her. Spinning the scythe calmly, the girl threw the weapon towards the boy. Leo easily deflects the scythe with his sword, throwing the girl's weapon away. She wonders how he had blocked it if she didn't feel any aura from him. The girl thinks it could be an aura that is difficult to detect. Our protagonist says that her attack was very simple, and asks what she thought about joining him. Laughing, the girl says that unfortunately for him, she was a battle mage. The girl asked if she heard correctly when he said that his attack was too simple. Leo says that compared to the power of her magic, that attack was nothing special. Insulted, the girl asks who he thought he was trying to teach her about magic, a direct descendant of the Llewellyn family. She says that she would crush him with the attacks he called simple. The girl casts several wind spells in a row, but when she looks, our protagonist has disappeared. Not sensing any trace of mana in the place, the girl wonders how this was possible. At that moment, the boy appears in front of her, ready to throw a punch. She then falls to the ground, and Leo asks her if she would join him or not. Meanwhile, outside the world created by Albi, the people were happy, because finally the transmission of what was going on inside had begun. The first thing they see as soon as the transmission starts is the silver-haired girl trapped in a log. Upon waking, the girl sees our protagonist near a fire. Our protagonist, seeing that she had woken up, asks if she would cooperate with him. She says never, saying that she doesn't need anyone other than her brother. The trapped girl tries to summon her wind scythe, but is prevented by the protagonist's magic restricting ability. Leo thinks he doesn't have much mana, so the magic wouldn't last long. He needs to be quick. Chelsea says she could get out of there even without magic. The boy asks her if she thinks he would let her focus for that. Leo ties the rope even tighter and pushes the fire closer to her, leaving her panicked. She says she would cooperate, asking him to get her out of there. The boy asks her to swear on her family's name. In a panic, wanting to get out of there quickly, the girl does so. Releasing Chelsea from the rope, he thinks that kids nowadays are much easy to manipulate. Picking her up without her arms, he says it was a pleasure to meet the Llewellyn mage. In the teacher's lounge, where the instructors were judging the students, Professor Albie comments on the students being out of the norm. They preferred to fight each other instead of fighting monsters. He thinks that only 2 students got straight to the point. These students were Celia Zerdinger and Abad Llewellyn. The instructor says he thinks the future of the Republic will be bright. Albie then sees Leo fighting alongside Chelsea against a Cyclops. He thinks that what the boy did to get Chelsea's cooperation was immature, but with her cooperation, it was almost impossible not to pass. Observing Leo, the professor says that he was certainly an unexpected underdog. After defeating 2 monsters, Chelsea tells Leo that going alongside a knight made things much easier. Curious, she asks what aura the boy was using, as she didn't detect any mana coming from him. He replies that he didn't know how to use it. The girl asks him how he did all that without an aura, and Leo replies that, like anything else, the foundation is the main thing. Our protagonist uses wind magic as an example, asking her what she thought her foundation was. Using wind magic in a crude way, she puts a wooden jacket on a nearby animal. She tells him it was insolent to talk about wind magic in front of her. As they walked, he tells her that she had great power, but had used it incorrectly. Noticing something strange, he asks her to wait. There were bodies on the ground. Chelsea says they looked like mummies. Leo says he had seen something that left its victims that way. The boy, after saying that he had finally understood the conditions to pass the test, pushes Chelsea back, protecting her from something. It was other students trying to get rid of them. They were talking about getting rid of the girl first because the other guy was a nobody. At this moment, we see that the student who said this was Gulliver. Gulliver orders the students to attack together. Activating a kind of Sharingan, the protagonist punches one in the face, who already faints. The redhead is a little scared because he didn't expect the boy to be so strong. Leo asks Chelsea to cover him. Gulliver asks what they were waiting for, ordering the students to get them. Our protagonist then goes wide-eyed in pure hatred. We see Gulliver running through the forest in the biggest Friday the 13th vibe. The boy thinks he wouldn't be able to escape like this. He says he needed to quickly find another group. From a distance, Celia can see the boy running for his life. Celia and Abad end up finding Leo and Chelsea, who were near several students passed out on the ground. Seeing her brother, Chelsea runs to hug him. He tells her he was happy to see her. Celia asks Leo why they are together. The boy says he suggested that they cooperate. Celia tells him that there was no way a stubborn girl like Chelsea would accept that. Leo, with an evil smile, says that he had convinced her. Celia wonders what that crazy man had done. Lifting one of the students from the ground, Chelsea asks him why Leo was helping them. He says that they didn't need to fight anymore, since they would conquer the world together. Looking at Leo, they ask what he was talking about conquering the world. The boy explains that in the forest there was an anomaly, and asks if they were seeing these corpses. Our protagonist says that it is as if the moisture from the bodies had been sucked. Furthermore, Leo asks if they saw any monsters nearby. Celia says that it is as if there was something they were afraid of. Probably a high-grade monster must have appeared and scared the other monsters. Abad says that probably the hero Albie's first feat was to defeat a high-grade monster. Suddenly, they feel a great danger close to them. Leo says that the creature had finally revealed itself. Now with Gulliver, we see him alone, thinking that no matter what he had to do, he would make sure Leo failed the test. With his staff, he lit the way until he saw a body. The boy fell to the ground screaming in panic. He ended up drooling on his staff. Looking at the source, he saw that a giant spider was attracted by the noise he made. Outside the test, we saw that many failed. The professor said that of the approximately 500 who were there in total, all failed. Another professor told Albie that even if that was the case, he needed to choose at least 100, just like the other regions, as there were only 50 in the test yet. Albie told him that if no one met his standards, he was willing to fail everyone. He said that the headmaster knew this when he put him in charge of the test. He said that a hero could only be found in times of trouble. Albie thought that Leo probably noticed the anomaly in the forest, however. He wondered if he could overcome this world. Going on, in the direction of the anomaly, one of the students who was with Leo and the others comments that everything was very dark. Using a spell to see the way, Celia says that there was something ahead, telling them to prepare. She points her sword at the monster, where we see that Gulliver was being swallowed alive by the spider from before. Celia wonders what kind of creature it was. When Abad was going to try to attack the spider with a wind spell, he is stopped by Leo. Leo calls for Gulliver, telling him to wake up and break the crystal. Gulliver decides to trust Leo, breaking the crystal, and consequently failing the test. At this moment, Abad uses the wind trap spell, which ends up being effective. However, by grazing the monster, he manages to regenerate. The monster then advances towards them, leaving everyone frightened except Leo, who already expected this could happen. While trying to advance towards the spider with a halberd, one of the students is thrown away. Celia says she would finish the spider in just one blow, casting a spell Red, which she fires at the spider, causing a huge impact. However, looking again, the spider was intact. Celia says that was impossible. Abad says that wizards and knights clearly have different levels of power while casting a spell. He summons the Raphael spell, a whirlwind that apparently was cutting the spider. However, when seen, again it had not caused any damage to the spider. Seeing that the spider was heading towards her brother, Chelsea uses the windbreak spell to try to stop it. However, the spider still manages to wound him in the arm. Chelsea asks if Abad was okay. Running towards him, he says he was fine and that she didn't need to worry. The halberd boy asks what monster that was. Its regeneration was absurd. Leo says that there was a monster in Erebus's army that destroyed the elven forest. This monster's name was Tarantulia, the monster princess, Salatna's daughter. The boy thinks that was it then. The mana in Albi's left eye was the Fairy King's mana. Leo remembers that Tarantulia ruled the cursed forest. In addition, she ate the Fairy King's right hand, which resisted and destroyed the forest where the elves lived. He says that his past life companion Luna certainly killed Spider. The king's hand in the spider's stomach probably saved her. Leo remembers that there was an infinite source of life energy, the Ring of Life. Abad says that if the monster was the key to this test, then he would defeat it. Celia, very competitive, says that the one who would kill the creature would be her. The two fiercely attack the creature, and Leo says that it would only continue if regenerating eternally until they both ran out of mana. Celia then asks the boy what he suggested they do. He says that two people needed to work as a team for it to be possible. Abad refuses, saying that he would be the highest scorer, and Celia says the same. Then Leo tells them that if they don't beat the hero's world, everyone will fail. The silver-haired boy says that even if they worked, he asks who would be able to roll the monster there. Leo tells him that he would do it himself. Celia says that would be suicide, since Leo couldn't even use aura. He says he knows that, however, says that he could buy them about 5 minutes even so. Abad then asks what would happen if the attack failed. Leo looks back with the same mischievous smile as always. He picks up the halberd from the ground and says that that wouldn't happen, because fire and wind are great friends and always work well as a team. Celia and Abad look at each other as if they said it would never be true. The spider advances towards Leo, and he thinks that it reminds him of the old days. Swiping at it, he takes off one of its legs and says that it has been a long time since he saw the monster from Tartarus. If you liked the video, please subscribe and leave a like.